Welcome to Cal's Opinion, where this time we're going to go over Sony losing some major information in court, Epic is playing some major releases, and Suicide Squad has a major announcement of delay. It's a major dad episode. Don't know why I quoted an old TV show none of you understand. This is a Cal's Opinion. Boom, 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 boom. Nah, I don't like that thing. I gotta get a theme song for this, man. But the problem is I gotta get a theme song that is not, copyrighted, so, First up, we are looking at news from Kotaku where Sony loses a pretty big court decision. Now, if you've been under a rock for the last year, Activision Blizzard is being bought by Microsoft. Sony is at the forefront of trying to get the appropriate government entities in America, Europe, and other parts of the world to deny this sale, complaining that it will give them, among other things, World of Warcraft and Call of Duty, which will give them an unfair monopoly. Now, you can argue about a lot of things, but we can both agree that Microsoft and Sony, neither of them are really like the good guy in this. This is some corporations just fighting it out. But recently, Sony had to defend itself in court because Microsoft was asking to, under Freedom of Information Acts and other things, to look at a bunch of Sony information. Sony was complaining that it was harassment. However, the Federal Trade Commission's Chief Administrative Judge D. Michael Chappelle tossed out most, not all, but most of Sony's complaints. And that has opened the door now for Microsoft to get access to a lot of information that no corporation wants to get out. And it's going to be things from Sony's antitrust lawyers' external emails to a number of senior vice presidents' documentations to the records of even former employees. Now, the biggest part of this that the Kotaku article cites is this quote from the FTC, which states, Microsoft argues that the complaint in this case makes a number of allegations regarding high-performance video game console developers' exclusivity arrangements with video game publishers. Never thought I'd hear a court say that, but here we are. Microsoft states that it is aware that SIE, which is the corporate name of just Sony, requires many third-party publishers to agree to exclusivity provisions, including preventing the publishers from putting their games on Xbox multi-game subscription service, and that understanding the full extent of Sony's exclusivity agreements and their effect on the industry competitiveness will assist in its case. The judge also went on to say the nature and extent of Sony's content licensing agreements are relevant to the complaint's allegations of exclusivity arrangements between video game console developers and video game developers and publishers. Now, you might have noticed I've been a little pro-Microsoft lately because it's really garbage that Sony is arguing about exclusivity. We know that Final Fantasy games have to come out on a Sony console for up to a year beforehand. Sony forces things like Beyond Horizon and other games to spend at least a year exclusive to them too, and then act surprised when a year later they release on Steam to no fanfare. Say what you want about... Say what you want about Microsoft. A lot of it's fair. But due to Game Pass and their PC focus so that stuff is on Steam day and date at the same time, Microsoft does a pretty good job of allowing you to have your games how you want. Sony doesn't really. So the fact that the judge is saying, hey, Microsoft's bringing up some interesting points, if you're pulling the exact same exclusivity stuff, that means that that's relevant to the case, and we have to talk about it. Now, I know that corporate court warfare is boring as hell, but as the article goes, this is going to be fascinating. This is going to be a lot of information. A lot of it's going to be embarrassing or stupid to Sony. Like, again, Sony pays for exclusives. Sony has complained that this will allow Microsoft to raise prices, but Sony was the first guys to raise first-party games to $70. So I think this is going to be a really fun read because you know this stuff is going to get published. It's going to be put out there, and it's going to be a beautiful thing. Now, they only get to know the deals after January 1st, 2019 to limit the work involved in searching records mainly. So we're not going to get like information from back in the PS1, PS2 days, but 4 years of information. That's 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, and now everything up until the first couple of months of this. That's going to be a ton of juicy stuff. We will definitely cover it. Look forward to it here on A Cow's Opinion as we move on to our next story. Our next story is that Epic is planning major Epic game exclusives on their storefront, and says that the smaller titles didn't really tempt people to move over, which, I mean, did you really expect that? So as we know, Steam makes a lot of money, so much that Valve is never going to give us Half-Life 3. Dadgummit, Valve, come on! But Epic game stores wanted to some of that pie. Now, Epic is the company that makes probably one of the most played games right now still, which is Fortnite. And they really did get a lot of people to download the client because you could only play Fortnite on Epic. And then they realized, oh, well, why don't we just offer other games on this too? That's really fun. So they've been trying to build out their own competitor to Steam. But, you know, Steam is really freaking big and it's really freaking hard. So they're still trying to get more of that pie. Epic CEO Tim Sweeney states, "We're really honing our strategy based on what we observed worked really well in previous launches and what didn't work well. A handful of major exclusives really moved the needle, and these smaller games, especially games that had a smaller audience typically on Steam, we found that a lot of those players weren't ready to move over. One of the biggest games was Borderlands 3, which just blew away all their expectations. And Epic isn't just trying to sign other games to their platform for exclusive deals. They've also begun funding the development games under a new publishing label from 2020. Stuff like that's going to finally start hitting after. And let me just say, I know people are like 2020. It's been 3 years. You haven't released a thing. I actually like this because it means that they're taking time. And let me tell you something. The game crop looks really good. First of all, Alan Wake 2, anyone? Alan Wake is a criminally underappreciated game, and it's available now. You should play it. As well as new projects from the maker of Limbo and The Last Guardian Studio Gen Design. So Epic this week says that there are 230 million users, which is up from 36 just 2 years ago. Last year, they added 626 new PC titles, which gives them over 1,500. And that players, including the cow himself, spent over $355 million on third-party games, 18% up year over year, although total spending went down 2% to $820 million. So, you know, the third-party stuff did a lot better. The first-party stuff fell slightly. So this made up for that. It also, I feel like I should go ahead and let you know that the next free Epic Games Store title is going to be Warhammer 40,000 Gladius, The Relics of War, to replace Call of the Sea. Now, so, what do I think about this? Well, this just goes back to kind of what's happening in publishing that console makers Sony and Microsoft are fighting over in our previous story. Epic really wants a piece of the pie, but unlike Sony, they're willing to actually make their own exclusive titles to get you to download the client. The client is free. It's just a matter of where do you want to spend your money. Now, I don't know why they thought that the smaller titles were going to help, because if you can get it on Steam or Epic, you're just probably going to get it on Steam. The major exclusives, like Borderlands 3, of course, because you want Borderlands 3. It's a really fun game. And that's going to make people move over. But the little, look, I'm not trying to bash on little Steam titles that sell maybe like 10 to 100K or more. I understand that for those studios, they work really hard and they make those. But for these online publishers, you're probably not going to build a big empire. You have to have your own big set of games coming out constant. I'm not saying week after week, but you need to know, like in January, this game's coming out. Then March, this game's coming out. Then May, this game's coming out. Your big exclusives. And it gets people to check back and like, oh, what's this? What's this? My curated Epic Game Store says that this upcoming game from an indie developer is something I might like. And you know what? Yeah, let me click the little watch button and then maybe I'll buy it. And that's how you build your ecosystem. But it looks like Epic is doing that. Personally, Steam is very good, don't get me wrong. They've had a couple of missteps over the years, like you know, a lot of games that are obviously never being finished or just get released in these terrible states after they decided, you know what, we're not going to do quality checks ourselves anymore because let the players handle that. So yeah, competition is important. That's why Sony and Microsoft are fighting so hard over Activision Blizzard. You need to have competition so that you don't get lazy and then just start putting out absolute garbage constantly. But we're going to move on to our last story. And in my final update for your nice weekend, guys and girls, Rocksteady's Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is getting delayed again. And I am not really surprised. So, we have the nice little trailer that got reviewed over the state of play just this past month. But according to Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, pardon me if I got your name wrong, sir, Warner Brothers delayed the game from May 26 to a date that is yet to be decided. Now, there was a lot of backlash and angry fans when they saw Rocksteady's most recent state of play information. The game was not quite what people were expecting. However, Jason notes that delays like this are for polish, and it's not really going to be changing what a lot of fans were not happy about. His quote from Twitter is, "For what it's worth, a delay like this is mainly for polish, not to overhaul the core gameplay that caused the backlash. Suicide Squad started off as a game as a service, or GAS, because it stinks, and will remain one short of a complete reboot, which would require a much longer delay." Here we've got, the state of play playing here. So this is an anonymous source, and Warner Brothers has yet to, confirm, deny, or comment on any of this. You see what I'm seeing right now. It's a cool little trailer. You got people talking. And the article notes that the big gameplay showcase confirmed that Suicide Squad will be a live service game with Battle Pass, an RPG-style gear system, and a required online connection. Battle Passes are not terrible, but here's the thing. The RPG-style gear system has been done so many times, and it's really, really weird that they're putting it into a Rocksteady game. And here we're looking at the actual footage now, and it's a lot like Gotham Knights, that everyone's got travel powers for no reason, even if it doesn't quite fit their character. Everybody is, just shooting, flying through the air for combos. It's a lot more arcadey than I think what people were expecting. I'm not saying it looks fine. It doesn't look bad, and I don't think it actually plays bad. I'm just, all of these vehicles have the same Brainiac purple stuff on them for extra damage. Attack the enemy's weak point for extra damage. Bonus points, if you know what that's from. Now, this isn't the first delay, because Rocksteady had to push it out of last year to this current release in May, which has now been delayed for again. The game has you playing between the members of the Suicide Squad, which is Deadshot, Harley Quinn, King Shark, and Captain Boomerang, who have to stop Brainiac, who's taken over Metropolis, and it looks like you may have to kill the Justice League as he's taken over their minds. Now, there's also a opinion piece on live service games. Guys, let me be honest with you. Live service games, for the most part, just don't work. The problem with live service is that game companies love them because they can sell you a battle pass, because they can sell you DLC and constant update. The few live action games that actually work make buco bucks for 3, 5, or longer years. That really helps daddy corporate officers' bottom line and makes them happy. But games as a service is called gas because it stinks. It's really hard to not make just another generic looter shooter, which is what people are complaining about. This looks like a generic looter shooter with tons of, the same RPG mechanics, the same, oh look, it's a world of quirky characters and all kinds of stuff. Oh, look. I mean, the game looks fine. The game looks like it might even be some mindless fun, but it is not looking. Here's your hub. It just doesn't make me want to put out a lot of money. It also seems like there's going to be, with the Battle Pass, like premium currency. Just who the hell wants to buy a $60 game, then buy a Battle Pass, and then buy premium currency for it? Not a lot of people. There's a reason why things like Anthem failed, because it felt more like the developers were like, how do we keep you playing forever? How do we get all of your time and all of your money? Lots of gamers like to be able to switch between game to game, but that's hard to do in the current situation. I was watching Jesse Cox, and he also had on his 5-minute gaming news, which is actually really fun to watch most of the time. And he had said that his fear, and he makes a good point on this, so I'm bringing it up on this PlayStation on this channel. His fear is that it's going to be delayed until like fall for the holiday season. They're going to have a big push, and maybe the backlash will go away, and people will have forgotten all the garbage stuff that they saw at the State of Play last month that they didn't like. And look, it's Rocksteady and it's Suicide Squad. This will be fun. But that's his. He calls it possibly conspiracy, Jesse, but I don't feel like he's wrong. He might be right. He might be onto something. I'm not sure he's wrong. But what do you think about any of these? Do you think Sony deserves to have its emails out in the public eye? Do you even use the Epic Game Store, and are you looking forward to more competition for your browsers? And do you want to play Suicide Squad? Or are you just wishing that these game studios would be allowed to put out great games and not have to worry about having to get all your time and money with one title? Because guess what? If I'm giving all my time and money to one of your titles, EA or Activision or any of the other big companies, if I'm giving all my time and money to one of your titles, I can't buy the other dozen that you're releasing over the course of the next fiscal year. So you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. But as always, I am curious as what you know. Let me know in the comments. Also, let me know if there's anything that you think I should cover on the channel. Thank you guys, as always, for watching. Feel free to hit that subscribe button, but most importantly of all, play more games! Because games are awesome, and you deserve that awesome. I'll see you next time. Gotta figure out that theme song.